Hi guys, it's Lynn here. Hope everyone's having an incredible day. Now guys, this is just a quick video and it's just to talk to you about how to know when to water your winter growing succulents. Now obviously I'm always saying about cacti and a lot of the succulents during the winter time, which we're right in the middle of winter now, to keep them dry. And there's obviously two reasons why that is. One is they're not actively growing. Most of certainly the majority of the cacti would not be growing during the winter months, except for, to show you the schlumbergers, which as you can see there, they're in flower and bud. And these are obviously commonly known as the Christmas, Thanksgiving cacti, holiday cacti, and they do need to still be kept lightly watered. But the majority of the other plants, as I'll show you here, these are typical desert type of cacti. These need to be kept dry. Watering during the winter time encourages not only lanky growth, because the lower light encourages them to grow spindly, but also they're very prone to rot when they're not actively growing, especially when they're kept in cool conditions, which is ideal for them if you want them to produce flowers next year. And I put links up above to a video that I made on how to get your cacti to flower, and I go into a little bit more detail why the cooler temperatures during the winter and being kept dry is much better for getting your cacti to flower in the spring. So the coolness and the dryness is important. But obviously with what do you do with the succulents that grow during the winter? Now I have a very mixed bag here and I'll show you, because this is where a lot of the succulents are in our polytunnel. As you know, we have a mixture of everything growing here. Some crassulas, some aloes, aeniums, and a mixture of everything. A lot of aloes, haworthias, gasterias, and a lot of the epiphyllums, which I'm going to go into again because they're epiphytic, and although they are sort of dormant at this time of year, it gets a bit more confusing because again they're not meant to be kept totally dry, and I'm going to explain a little bit more what I'm going to be doing now. Now, as I say, these are the succulents here, and some of them do grow during the winter and some of them don't. So it's very difficult for me to say, well, water your aloes during the winter, because I have some aloes that are completely go dormant during winter and do not grow for me at all, and they start to grow again in the spring and summer, and I have some that carry on growing through the winter. So the reason why this is obviously they're from South Africa. A lot of the succulents are from South Africa, and this can confuse a little bit with them because some of them will still continue to grow in our hemisphere, in obviously our northern climate. They will still through obviously thousands of years have it in their system that it's their spring, and they will carry on growing, and you can't really prevent this because I do try to keep them dry, but obviously they're still going to grow if they want to grow. And some of them, obviously, the ones that don't grow, I just leave, and I would just treat them as normal cacti and succulents then during the spring, which is ideal because it doesn't encourage lanky growth. But there are some that do actively grow during this time of year. Some of the aloes, gasterias, and as I say, I have a mixture here. Now this is one of the, I don't actually remember the name of this plant, guys. I am actually going to put the name of it down below because I have the plant label in the house. I'm rewriting a lot of my labels out because they're faded, but it's a strange name. It's a little succulent, and I think it belongs to the Mesem family, Mesembryanthemaceae. But as you can see, this is a good indication that it needs watering because it's very limp. Now even the ones that do grow during the winter, normally when I had them in the house last year, I would have given them a bit of water, which is what I would recommend if you see signs of shriveling and they're winter growers. Still keep them lightly watered, completely allowing the soil to dry out. But because they're in the polytunnel this year, and I'll just show you the temperature, it's on 42 degrees Fahrenheit, which is possibly only about 6 Celsius, so it is very chilly in here. We have a heater that comes on if it drops below 5, certainly drops below 4, but we haven't had to worry about it because the weather's sort of gone nice and mild again. The snow is all gone, so we've not worried. The plants are all dry, so there's no chance of them rotting, and they seem to be doing well. But the trouble is, because obviously normally in the house if they're at 10 Celsius, hear that seagull? I'd normally be giving them a little bit of water, But I have kept them drier than normal because of the cooler temperatures. And as I say, cold temperatures aren't harmful to the majority of these plants. They can take many degrees lower, in fact. Some of them can take below freezing. But the trouble is, I'll just show you here, this is our hydrometer. It's over 100% humidity. And even with the heater on, which helps to dry it up, when we don't have the heater on, it goes right back up to over 100%, because we are in Ireland, Northern Ireland, and it is very damp climate up here. So there's really no way of getting around the humidity, but the trick is to keep them as dry as possible. And obviously the more humid atmosphere you're growing cacti and succulents in, the warmer of a temperature you do have to overwinter them at. But I would never recommend overwintering the majority of desert type cacti over 10C, because this does encourage them to grow. So it's just finding a balance. But as I say, I avoid watering unless they're absolutely showing signs of shriveling. So if you have winter growing succulents and you're not in a very cold, high humid climate, and you're especially if you're growing them in the house, if they show signs of shriveling, as obviously this one is here, then you can give a little bit of water and allowing it to dry completely in between waterings during this time of year. As I say, they're not going to die even if you don't water them. So sometimes it's better to do now if you're not quite sure what to do. But I was looking at this and I do think, yes, it is gasping for a drink. So this one is a good indication it needs a bit of water. So I'm going to give that a tiny bit of water, just enough to keep the soil moist and just enough to let it take up a bit of water to get through the rest of the winter. And see, the echeverias all seem to be doing pretty much okay. No signs of shriveling. Now, this is normal to get cacti shriveling like this. This is an Opuntia sublata. That's completely normal, and that's a good sign because it proves that it's using its water reserves, and that also helps prevent against rotting. So obviously that's obviously what you need to look for when it comes to watering your plants. So far I can only see this one that needs to be watered. Now I have got some of the epiphyllums. Now these are another one again, because obviously like my Christmas cacti, the Schlumbergers, they are all actively growing. They're all in flower and coming into bud. So I have still been very lightly keeping these watered. As I say, they are in lower than ideal temperatures, but they seem to be doing okay, so I wouldn't be watering them as freely as I normally would be. Now the epiphyllums, these also like to be kept lightly watered during the winter, completely allowing to dry out in between waterings. But I've kept these pretty dry as well because of the humidity in here and the cooler temperatures. But this one here, as you can see, it's got a little bit of brown marking on, probably because of the humidity, but other than that it's pretty much okay. But when I feel the leaves, I can feel it feels pretty rubbery, and this is an indication that it needs watering. So I'm going to be giving this a little bit of water and it should fatten up again. So these ones are all nice and firm leaves, I don't need to worry about these, but this one, it needs a water. So if you find your epiphyllums are shriveling a bit or they feel a little bit rubbery to the touch, that's an indication that they've sort of used up their water reserves and need a bit more. So I'm going to be watering this one, and also to show you this one here, this is my also another one, a ripsalis, and this is also showing signs of shriveling along the leaves too. So I'm going to be giving that one a tiny bit of water, just enough to plump it back up again, but not enough so they're obviously sitting in damp soil with these temperatures. And I'm going to do the same for that one. So really, when it comes to your winter growers, as I say, it's really best to play it by eye. I can't really turn around and say, yes, just because you've got winter growers, water them. I only really water the plants during the winter, even if the ones growing inside the house, if they show signs of shriveling, because I find aloes will still carry on flowering, and haworthias and gasterias and any of the other winter growing succulents, even if they're not watered. So you don't need to worry too much, but you do need to worry if you water it and they rot. So better to be safe than sorry. As I say, this is the only one I'm going to be giving a bit of water to today, and also this one here because it feels a little bit rubbery, and also the ripsalis, as I show you there, you can see it's dehydrated, but the rest of them are all pretty good. And as I say, the lower temperatures is preventing them from drying out anyway. And just look at that, it's going to be amazing flower show in the next day or two, guys. And obviously I'm keeping the Nepenthes watered. These are, again, ideally they would prefer to be kept at about 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degree, but they seem to be doing okay. I'm keeping an eye on them, any signs of trouble, I'd have to bring them back into the house. But so far so good. And obviously I keep these lightly watered with the rainwater too, as I do all the other epiphytes in here. They're sort of kept with the rainwater. And obviously the monkey puzzles, I'm going to be still keeping these watered because these are outdoor plants, but they're still young. They need to be kept in here for the winter. And that's really it. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a little bit of water now. And as I say, just enough to prevent shriveling, but not enough to obviously so it's sitting in water, because that's the last thing you want to do this time of year. So that's what I'm going to be doing there. So that's all I can really say, because people say, what do I do about my winter growing succulents? You know, do I water them or what? Well, play it by eye. If they look like they're shriveling, give them a bit of water, but completely let them dry out until you water them again, and only really water if absolutely necessary. As I say, we have the crassulus here, me and Hansi's jade plants. They're all coming into active growth, lots of new growth. They're all kept bone dry. It's not stopping them from growing. They seem happy enough. I know if I was to water them in these temperatures, it would probably create more humidity and possibly the chance of fungal. So better safe than sorry. So guys, I want to send you loads of love, heaps of happiness, and tons of plant power. Oh, there's the sun coming out from Ireland. Until the next video, guys. Bye.